Hello, my friends and fellow animal lovers. Welcome to a new episode of the Story of My Pet podcast. I am so excited to be back after a longer break than expected, but we are back and ready to share some amazing pet stories. I cannot wait to share some interviews with you that have been done over the last year. Great conversations I am having with my guests and meeting, even more amazing pet parents. That's kind of why I started this to begin with, but also a lot of those pet parents are here to help share, educate, advocate for animal rescue, fostering, and adoption. And this episode is really great for me to have my first guest return for a second episode. Super excited to have Melissa Brunson here with us today. She is the executive director of Marley's Mutts Dog Rescue in Kern County, California. And she, at this point, is my number one guest. Her previous episode has been one of my most popular. People are still listening to it. And I realize it's been long enough. We need to do an update. So Melissa and I talk about the state of the overpopulation crisis in our country, in our state, California, and in the central southern California, and how the various programs Marley's offers helps us to save rescue dogs and shelter dogs every single day. This was recorded prior to the fires that occurred in Los Angeles in 2025. Being in Kern County in California, we are around 2 hours away from several of the fires. And so, of course, Melissa and Marley's has been impacted. They are trying to help some of the animal rescues, shelters, and nonprofits in the Los Angeles area by taking in some pets so that they have more space to bring in the pets that are impacted. A lot of the organizations down there are not only dealing with pets like cats and dogs, they've also had to deal with larger animals like horses and donkeys, and also wild animals, because a lot of these areas were very close to, obviously, that's why there's fires, lots of trees, lots of trails, places where wild animals live, and they're also being highly impacted by that. All that being said, Melissa and I recorded this before those fires happened, so we do not specifically talk about that. But any of the things we talk about can still be applied in ways that you can help either Marley's as an organization by donating or fostering or volunteering so that they can help more animals that are being displaced from Los Angeles, or by just supporting one of their other amazing programs. We also talk at the end about how important social media is to animal rescue and the little things we can do as followers to help boost them on those different algorithms on the different social media platforms. I'm really excited to be back, have our first full episode back, and getting to share some time with Melissa Brunson for Marley's Mutts Dog Rescue, a state of the animal welfare in our country and state, but also some great tips of how you can help in your own community. And that's what it's all about. I am here to educate and advocate. And if one animal gets saved, fostered, adopted, rescued from listening to my podcast, then my work is worth it. So thank you for being here, for listening, for continuing to listen and come back as we bring new episodes. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate your support of this podcast. And I hope you enjoy this interview. I am super excited to be here with my guest today. Someone who maybe is probably familiar to many of you, but especially my listeners, because I interviewed her before and she is still the number one downloaded episode of this podcast, which is amazing. So I'm very excited to welcome back Melissa Brunson from Marley's Mutts Dog Rescue. Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, it's so great to be back.
I know, it's kind of crazy to think how long it's been.
I think it's been almost a year, maybe longer.
Yeah, I was thinking your episode came out March or around then of last year. I mean, I can look it up, and then a few months later, I also interviewed Connor from Marley's, which was a great episode too. So I know everybody wants to hear what's going on with Marley's, how are things, what's new, and all of that. So let's start with a kind of catch-up report of where things are from, about a year and a half ago, where things are at now for you.
So rescue moves very fast and it also moves very slow. So our Miracle Mutts program is now operating with Kern Behavioral Health. And so that's been a big partnership that we've forged in the last year, which has been amazing. And our program has grown. We have so many people asking us about, can you bring your therapy dogs to, any number of events? We've been super busy, which is wonderful. We need more people. So if you have a dog that you think is a therapy dog candidate, reach out to our Miracle Mutts program because we're constantly looking for new dogs to be certified to be able to go into, any number of types of facilities. It could be, senior living. It could be our Barks and Books program, which helps, our folks, young kids with literacy. Again, from behavioral health. We just have so many different places that we operate in for Miracle Mutts. Positive change.
I would just say that is so great. I don't, if you've never experienced it or seen it, therapy pets, but therapy dogs are powerful. I remember when my dad was in the hospital and he had one come and it just, lit up his whole face and his day. You just don't understand the power of petting a dog for a few minutes.
You don't. And it's great for folks that are, like your dad. It's really good for kids when they're having literacy issues because they get to read to an animal that isn't going to judge them. Right.
Right.
And then it's also great for people that are going through rehabilitative services from strokes or things like that as well. Because then they get to, petting the animal and running your fingers through its fur helps the dexterity in your hands and all of those kinds of stuff, those kinds of things as well. And then also other types of rehabilitative services, people that are struggling with addiction. So yeah, it's a great program.
Pets are so healing. We all know that. That's why we have them, right?
Exactly. That's why we work with them, right?
That's why we come home for a long day and we want that pet. So I love that Miracle Mutts is still growing. And I hope anyone out there listening that's interested in their dog being a therapy dog can go to the website and learn more about that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Our positive change program is running. We have a program at CCI Tehachapi. That one's been running for a long time. We have 2 yards at North Kern State Prison. We are working on a contract with Kern Probation. I'm just waiting for the paperwork to go through on that. Kern Probation is the organization that runs juvenile facilities, and there's 3 of them in Kern County. So we're just waiting for, the contract and all of that to go through for those, which it's amazing because they reached out to us and said, hey, we want to fund our own programs. And we were like, awesome, like we can do that.
That's cool.
So we're excited about that. We're working on federal funding for our prison in Victorville. And then we recently obtained an RFP, which for folks who don't know is a government-funded contract with the state of Arizona to run 2 prisons there. We're not going to be the rescue that will be running the program. We have a rescue there that's going to be facilitating it. So we just got back from Phoenix, actually, late last week. So we've got a lot going on.
That's a lot.
Our Mutt Movers program over the weekend broke over 400 dogs moved out of Kern County for the year so far. And it's just barely November. So we've been moving anywhere from 35 to 70 animals, a month. And so we're hoping we'll get close to 500 for the year, which is great in a year when adoptions are slow for everybody. It really has given us a path to be able to get dogs out of Kern County because our shelter situation has not changed that much.
Unfortunately, no, I knew you guys were doing a lot with that because I get all the emails asking for support or drivers for the transports. And I'm like, that's amazing. It's a great way. But I also know other areas are impacted too. So there's a limitation on how much can move and where and all of that.
Yeah. There's a geographical limitation as well, going all the way out to, the East Coast is kind of difficult. We have been exploring other thoughts on how do we move dogs east, maybe not all the way to the East Coast, but more east. Because right now, the majority of our transports are going to Washington and Montana. Those are in conjunction with the City of Bakersfield Animal Care Center. So it's been great to be able to move dogs for them and, to be able to pull dogs from Kern County Animal Services as well.
Right. Yeah. I was saying to Melissa before I hit record that it's been about 1.5 years since I was volunteering and working in the shelter with adoptions, but everything I see, I'm like, it doesn't seem like things have really changed.
They really haven't. They have and they haven't. We can talk a little bit more about that later with an update on like what's going on in the community too. I think it's an important topic to talk about and to just kind of give folks a State of the Union, so to speak, on that regard.
Right.
And then starting in November 9th, we are going to be announcing that Marley's is going to be starting a veteran program. Just another way for us to help the community. It's a passion project for Connor, who was on your podcast. He is a veteran. And, we've been talking for quite some time about how do we help veterans that are either transitioning, right, out of military service and into civilian life. And how do we really help those that are struggling? There's about 45,000 veterans in Kern County. And at our last juncture of, relay of information, there's really only one facility that's attached to the VA that helps them with their mental health.
Okay.
So Troops Entailed, which is the name of the program, going to be a way for Marley's to be able to give back to the community and help veterans that really need that mental health assistance. So we're going to be working with a group of therapists who have already agreed to sign on, and there'll be individual sessions, group workshops, and then hopefully some of our dogs will get adopted as emotional support animals. We're working with a fabulous organization called Doggy Do Good. They are in Arroyo Grande. They do service dog training, but they will also do ESA training. So they're going to be out here about once a month because they do work in Tehachapi. And so they're going to be, they're going to come out and do some assessments on our dogs as part of our partnership. And then as we kind of work through, hoping to be able to obtain grants that will help us be able to fund service dogs for veterans, because most people don't know this, but the waiting list, the average wait time is 2 years.
That doesn't surprise me.
No. And with the suicide rates with veterans and, knowing that doesn't account for addiction related deaths, the number's really more like 44 a day, not 22 a day. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to, help the community in that regard as well. Thankfully, we have some great grantors who have already said, sent us money so that we can start the specific yard that's just for that program, and we can start working on those things. So it's super exciting. We're excited about this program.
I'm excited. It sounds like a great program. And I am a daughter of a veteran, so it means a lot to me. And if my dad was still here, he would love to hear this because he was an animal lover his whole life. And, even though he was in the service decades before I was born, there's a pride of being having a veteran in your family.
Yeah.
And it's funny from my own experience, in psychology, I understand the need for veterans with mental health, but also as the daughter of a veteran, I realized a lot growing up that my dad wouldn't really talk about it. And when it wasn't until he got older and I knew he was a veteran, we went to the VA for medical stuff like that. But it wasn't until I was older and he really started talking about his experiences that I was like, gosh, no wonder you didn't want to talk.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. I mean, my ex-husband was a veteran, was a veteran. Jeez. He's a veteran. My uncle's a veteran. And we have, a few that that work and volunteer with us as well. And so we're excited to be able to provide that service. I think we've come a long way as a country in terms of how we treat our veterans, but I still think that there's so much more that we can do.
Absolutely. So if someone's listening to this episode and they're like, I really want to help, I want to donate or do something, what would you say to them specifically for Marley's that you're looking for support in terms of finishing out the year and moving into a new one?
I mean, we're always looking for support in so many ways. I think people think about, oh, I don't have time to volunteer, or I don't have the money to donate. And the reality is, this day and age with social media the way it is, sometimes all it takes is a forward of one of our posts to, a private message or to a story or to something like that on your social media that catches someone's attention. Right. So it could be as simple as just sharing. When you look at our social media, just sharing what we're sharing, right? Sharing the stories of the dogs, sharing about our programs. And then we always need volunteers. Everybody in animal welfare needs more volunteers, more hands-on. We need fosters. And I think sometimes with fosters, folks think, oh, it's got to be long-term until the dog gets adopted. And that's not necessarily the case, right? Sometimes just having a dog, we call it home for the holidays. Right. Finding a home for a dog for the holidays for a week or two while people are, I know there's lots of people that travel, but some people are just like to stay home during the holidays and they're off work. And sometimes just having an animal in a home for that amount of time gives us so much information about the dog, and also, gets us so much content that we can post, because people like to see animals in homes. And when they do, and they see how they behave, then they're so much more excited about that.
Right.
And then also, Giving Tuesday is coming up. It's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving every November, which is a really important day for every nonprofit across the country, when people really get excited about causes that are close to them and kind of near and dear to their heart. And then they, have the ability to be able to give back in that way. And then year-end giving. I mean, year-end giving is a big time as well. I'll be honest, I don't think we talk enough about year-end giving. I think we all talk about it, but I don't think people understand that it's an important time of year, not just for nonprofits, because we do earn quite a bit of money that gets us through the first 2 months of next year, which are typically very difficult financial months for most nonprofits. January and February after the holidays, everybody's like, yeah, I'm tapped out. I don't have any money, right? But if we make a push prior to that, and folks think about, oh, I could get a tax break if I donate. Right? So it's great for the nonprofit, but it's also great for you, the donor, because then you get the tax write-off before next year's tax season starts. But I think there's so many ways to give back that people just don't really think about. Yes. And I think the other thing that's important is it doesn't have to be a lot.
Yep.
To make an impact, right?
I can say I have a recurring $5 a month that you get.
Yeah,
and it's great.
And I appreciate that.
I don't forget. But then when I see something new going on, I'll make another donation or something like that.
Yeah.
But, just $5 a month or, $10 a month or it adds up. And all of that, every cent
it does,
you can use, right?
Yeah. And if I don't think folks realize that, right? So the backbone of any nonprofit, yes, major donors are a huge piece to that, and a huge piece to our operation and how we're able to, continue with our mission. But it's the folks that give $5, $10, $20 a month.
Right.
Those folks are the ones in mass that really bring in the majority of fundraising money. And so I don't know that people recognize how important that is.
Right. Yeah, because it's something that I know I can afford. And I can always up it if I want to,
right.
And it's a great way to do it throughout the year without even having to realize it. And then, like you said, at the end of the year, oh, that adds up and I get to, write it off. So I think people often think they have to give hundreds or even thousands, and then they don't realize that any nonprofit, but especially animal rescue, that $5 is food. That $5, is gas or whatever it is needed for the organization. And
it's true.
It's important for people to give what you can. Every dollar counts.
It really does. And I think, it's also interesting because people are so used to traditional nonprofits and their margins or their, how much their general and administrative costs are. And they don't realize that it's different in animal welfare because we have to have people that are taking care of the animals. So ours is always
Right.
going to be a little bit higher, right? Because we have to have folks like for us at our rescue ranch, making sure that all the animals are cared for in the way that they deserve to be. So,
Right. Now, I know recently you guys started a channel on Instagram and
we
I've been
did.
talking about some new things going on with social media. Can you talk a
Yep.
little bit about that?
So we started a broadcast channel for the folks that follow us as a means for them to just stay in touch and to drive, traffic and for them to be able to see some things that not everybody sees. Right.
Right.
And so we started a broadcast channel that is free. We did start subscription services on YouTube, Patreon, and Instagram as well. It's all going to be the same content, but we wanted to give people the opportunity to use whatever platform they're most comfortable with
Right.
because there's so many. It's $5 a month. And for $5 a month, you get, one basically exclusive content video a week, and then you get pre-release content. We are going to stick our neck out there a little bit and start showing some of the bloopers that we catch on video, right? And in photos, just because those are things people never see and we never do anything with it. But they're so funny sometimes. Literally so funny.
And not everybody loves a funny pet video.
Right. And then part of the subscription service is going to be training tips, fostering information, adoption information. How do you find the right dog for your home? So not just the cute, dog stuff, the videos of our dogs getting adopted or the dog stories, but also like, what can we do to help solve your problems? Which I think
is so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think it's a great thing to do because I love that you're meeting people wherever you are. YouTube, wherever you are, go there and follow us and subscribe.
Right.
But it's also, I actually have a couple rescues or pages that fundraise for rescues that I am subscribed to. So I get special content. They know me because I comment and they're like, yeah. But having a channel also is great because you never know who's seeing your post because of all the algorithm stuff. This way, people are being notified every time you're putting out something. And that's a big impact in terms of visibility, I'm sure.
It is. Yeah, it's helped a lot. I mean, I was shocked. We started a broadcast channel and within the first 5 minutes, we had 200 subscribers. And I was like, how did that happen? And it's great. We don't post in there every day, just like we don't do subscription content every day. But it gives people more visibility into what we're doing. And you're right. Like I notice with folks that I follow, I'll go a week or two and I'll be like, oh, I really miss seeing this person's content. What happened to it? Well, with the broadcast channel, we can just, make sure that folks are seeing what we're putting out there. It gives us better visibility.
Yeah, that's great. And when I post this interview, I now post all the video interviews on YouTube. I can tag your guys' YouTube channel so people can go and subscribe. And I know for me, doom scrolling on social media, especially right now with an election and everything else going on in the world, can be kind of depressing. But when I doom scroll pets, I'm not depressed. And oftentimes I'll see that one video or something. Like, it's what I needed. I needed a smile and now I can move on with my life.
Yeah. Or I want to go see a cool adoption story for a dog that's been at Marley's for a while. And we do post shorts on our YouTube. We also post, longer videos there as well that folks will have access to. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
So you mentioned it earlier, but we'll kind of get into it now. So Kern County, California, what is kind of the state of our situation in terms of animal welfare and rescue?
We still have a 40% euthanasia rate, which is difficult. And obviously it fluctuates, right? So that's an average.
Right.
But about a year ago, we started, not Marley's, but there is a bunch of, when I say we, I mean a group of rescues and the two main shelters in our area started a group called Kern Safe. And the purpose of Kern Safe, so it's Marley's Mutts, SOS Dog Rescue, Emma and Mel's, Almost Eden from Ridgecrest. We've got Bakersfield City Shelter, Kern County Animal Services. We all came together as a group and said, okay, so we're kind of tired of complaining about everything. Right? Because that's what happens. That's what happens in animal welfare is people get so focused on what's not happening instead of what they can do to affect change. So we were able to, and gosh, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody because that would be disastrous. So I probably should jump off and apologize and make sure I didn't do that ahead of time. But
I'll make sure to look it up and list everybody in the show notes.
thank you. So we together decided that, what can we do? How can we come together and create an organization that can help affect change? What does that look like? And what types of things does the community need? Because I think very often we kind of go to, well, it's crappy owners. It's not always crappy owners. Sometimes it's that, vet care is too expensive.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a lack of education. Nobody's ever told them spaying and neutering your animals is better for their health. Oh, and also you're not going to have oopsie litters, right?
Right.
And there's so many aspects to what we need to do to tackle the issues in Kern County. So Kern Safe, we just basically said, we know that we don't all have the same resources, but we don't want to exclude anyone from being part of Kern Safe. We have quite a few volunteers and we're so grateful to them from all different types of organizations within animal rescue that come and help us. So we have done 4 massive vaccine clinics where we did, DAP, rabies, microchips, signups for spay and neuter. Most of those clinics were doing over 400 vaccines. At every single clinic. We have one coming up on November 16th. I'm not going to disclose the location just because we typically try to make sure that we're reaching the folks that we need to reach through traditional methods, right? We don't put it out on social media because then it just doesn't reach the people that we're looking to reach. So most of the organizations that are part of Kern Safe have been running spay and neuter clinics. We've put into the community, into Kern County in the last year just under a year, about $3 million in funding for spay and neuter. Our list at one time was 1,500 pets at any given time.
Oh my God.
We are just now getting to a space where our list is 500, which still sounds like a lot, but it's a really good indicator for us as an organization with Kern Safe to say, okay, so our list isn't 1,500 at any given time for months at a time, right? And us taking animals off of the list and sending them to spay and neuter clinics.
Right.
And so it's not 1,500 at any given time anymore, right?
Right.
We're at 500 now. And so that's great because, we know it's making an impact. The shelters have shared with us that they are not seeing the level of illness that they were seeing last year.
Oh,
but we know it's a challenge. It's going to take us 5 years to get things under control.
Yeah.
Just because of the sheer volume of animals we have in the county.
Yeah.
And how many people don't know you have to vaccinate your animals every year. Because even if you're just taking them out for a walk, they could still be a dog and snarf something up off the ground, or if it's a cat, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's
actually funny. I just recently, so I fostered kittens for Kern County Animal Services, and 2 years ago now, I had a litter of 6 bottle babies. That was a full-time job.
Wow. Yes. No, definitely is a full-time job.
But I adopted one of them, our Pumpkin. And she'd been spayed and vaccinated through the shelter. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't taken her to the vet oh no, it's been too long, right? So I took her to the vet. I have literally had the same vet since I was a child, where we took our family dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a week for me to be able to get in because of how booked they are.
Yeah.
And just for an exam and vaccines. And she also had a little more work done because we weren't sure what was going on with her. That was $300.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. So it's so expensive.
People need to get that even annual vaccines can be a lot for someone in this economy when everything's more expensive. Sure. And here in Kern County, I've had many friends tell me how hard it is to find a vet that's taking new patients, as well as get in if there's a serious issue that, most people have to sit in the parking lot at the emergency vet for hours waiting. So I don't think people, especially if you've always had pets and you take care of them, you've never really seen, you don't realize the impact of that. Being able to have a vet to get in, the cost, all of that is a big part of why we are where we are.
It's true. And I think, thankfully there are organizations like Tractor Supply and Petco and, Critters Without Litters and Kern Safe and organizations like that will help to be able to do, lower cost. Because most of the clinics for Kern Safe are $20 per animal. Right. That includes cone, medication, surgery, and all of that. And that's because the rescues or the shelters are the ones that are sponsoring those events, right?
Right. Or paying for the vaccines themselves and the supplies and all of that.
And our partner, so SNP is Spay and Neuter Imperative Project, is part of Kern Safe as well.
Okay.
And
they're great. That's actually where Pumpkin, she got
snipped.
She got snipped on the bus in the parking lot at the shelter. So it's so great, and it's so much easier the younger you do it. So it's like, don't put it off. Find where you can go. But I know a lot of it because I experienced it myself when I would almost get into arguments with people in the public about certain things, that a lot of it is lack of education, right?
It really is. And it's sad. I think it's something like, so Connor and I made a trip to Boston last year at this time. And one of the things they've since been able to kind of get their animal issues, under control. But they shared with us that what they found out through all their research was that about 8% of the population are the ones that are not good animal owners.
Wow.
So the rest of it is really lack of education, lack of resources. I mean, there's any number of things that could be contributing to what is happening. And so we really have to attack it on all fronts.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, especially when I talk to people, they like to blame the bad, parents, the bad pet owners, whatever you want to say. But it's like, that's not it. Because trust me, I've been in there, and people sometimes have to give up pets they love. I saw often when I was in the shelter a lot, older dogs that were there because their human was in the hospital or someone passed away. There's a multitude of reasons. But I love that you guys are really trying to figure out what it is that you can help with that actually makes an impact.
Right. And it's, again, it was kind of born out of, okay, we're tired of complaining about everything that's happening. Everyone's talking about how bad it is. What are we doing about it? It's not enough that we're pulling animals from the shelter and bringing them into our rescues. That's part of it. But it's not enough, right?
That used to be enough.
It did. But when you have happy, healthy, social animals dying every day in the shelters, pulling dogs into your rescue isn't enough.
Nope.
You do what you can. And I think the nice thing about Kern Safe is we all just said, look, we all have different resources available to us. Some of us have spay and neuter grants. Some of us have vaccine grants. Some of us have volunteers who are willing to go out and canvass neighborhoods. Some of us, are really great at administrative stuff. And so we made it very clear in the beginning, whatever you have to bring to the table, bring it. It doesn't matter if, Marley's puts in 100,000 and another rescue doesn't have that, but you have the ability to canvass, or you have the ability to print flyers or volunteer, or whatever it may be. Like, we don't care about what level of financial responsibility you bring to the table. We care about how committed you are to working as a group to make stuff happen.
Right.
So,
and I can also imagine, having worked in the shelter and volunteered and, went to the ranch for a day and volunteered and all of that.
Yeah.
People don't realize the complexity of how all the organizations interact, work together, don't work together,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, I know just from being in the shelter itself is an organization, and there's politics, and it's
Right.
related to it being county funded and county related versus the city shelter versus, you know, I think a lot of people don't understand the level of involvement in rescue and all the
Right.
different people and what they do and what they can't do. And there's a lot of miscommunication or blaming and pointing fingers. So being able to bring everybody to the same table, I'm
Yeah.
sure has made things a lot easier just for you guys.
It has. I think traditionally everybody in rescue kind of has their own way of doing things. Or like you're right, if you're a shelter, you have your own set of politics and problems that you have to deal with. We've tried really hard to come together and just say, look, we're all going to do things differently. As long as you're doing it ethically, how we do it and how we do it that differs doesn't matter, right? Because our goal is the same. And we can't do it without each other. We all need each other to be able to do that. And I think people initially were really excited. And then, as things got harder, and what I mean by that is we just had to put the work in to get it done. Everybody that is part of Kern Safe runs their own organization or works for their own organization. Right. So we're doing rescue and then we're doing rescue, right?
Right.
Education and advocacy on top of that. So
I've certainly learned that rescue and shelter workers literally are working 24/7.
They are. Yeah, there is no
when
doubt
they're
about
at
it.
home and they're I mean, I realized almost every person I met who works in the shelter is also fostering. It's also coming in on the weekends or helping out at events. So I can imagine adding another organization or process on top of that is hard, but maybe it's alleviated some of the other.
It is, but we also said, like, whoever wants to be a member of Kern Safe can be a member of Kern Safe. And again, whatever you bring to the table as a volunteer, whatever you have, bring it to the table. We do have a leadership team and we have to, just like any other organization, right? But we really made a commitment at the beginning of starting Kern Safe to saying, again, we do things differently. And whatever grief or drama people have had in the past with each other for whatever reason doesn't matter anymore. We're all going to leave that at the door. And we're going to come together as a community to help our community, because if we don't, we're just going to continue to be in the same boat, right?
Yeah, and infighting between rescue groups doesn't help anybody, let alone the animals. And you guys don't want to waste your time with that kind of stuff. You want to focus on what you know you need to do. So, and I'm sure everyone listening, wherever you live, state, county, city, there's different rules, there's different processes and policies and laws, but everybody can contribute, right?
In one way or another. And we're really all just wanting the same thing.
Right. And which is less healthy animals being euthanized every day.
Yeah. And I think the goal really is, how do we keep animals in homes?
Right.
What is it that folks need to keep animals in homes? How do we do that? They need vaccines. They need to stay healthy. They need access to lower cost vet care, because I do understand vets and vet offices need to get paid too. I totally get it. Right.
Right.
But to some degree, we need to have folks that are offering that as well. And we need to be able to come together as a community. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a rescue or a shelter or a veterinarian or anybody from the community that's passionate about animal wellness. It's going to take everybody. Checking your ego at the door, right? Yeah. Recognizing that we're all going to do things differently, but that if we don't do this, the animals are the ones that end up suffering.
Absolutely.
So we had 49 spay and neuter clinics in the month of August. Just for Kern Safe alone.
Oh my God.
Somewhere in the vicinity of 2,500 animals were spayed and neutered in that month.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane.
It's insane.
They read us the schedule during a Kern Safe meeting. Snip read us the schedule and we all just were like mind blown, because that was city shelter, county shelter, Marley's SOS, Unity Canine, MN Mouse, anybody that had in Kern Safe that had access to funding for spay and neuter. But 49? It's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy great that many animals were helped,
Yeah.
but it's crazy to think that many needed it and how many more are there, you know?
Mm.
It's I don't think people realize how quickly the volume of animals happen. I mean,
Right.
I've seen diagrams about like one cat unspayed for 10 years, it's like thousands, as they multiply and multiply. But people
Yeah.
don't realize how quickly 10 dogs turns into 100, 1,000, and
Yeah.
all of that.
Well, and I don't think so we have had quite a bit of, have conversations with folks about why it's important. Pyometra and, female dogs, testicular cancer in male dogs. I even had a friend of the family reach out to me not too long ago and was like, oh, I have a 1-year-old pit bull and, I don't think I'm going to get him fixed. And I was like, okay, so first, are you saying that because you know that it's going to annoy me?
Right.
Second of all, it's important because anything else aside, that's how they get testicular cancer. And the argument back was, well, the percentage is really low. Well, if they don't have them, it's nothing.
No. Yeah.
Then the chances are zero. So, but also keeping your animals safe. I don't think people realize getting them spayed and neutered keeps them safe.
Yep.
What if a male dog knows that a female dog next door is going into heat, but there's another male in the yard and those dogs aren't dog friendly?
Right.
You could have a massive dog fight on your hands, right? Like, so there's it's not just that. It's that
Right.
frequently dogs get out, even in the most secure yards, right?
Yep.
I
just saw the dog walking down the street yesterday when I went out. So it happens all the time.
We have yards with coyote rollers on them, and we weren't leaving the dogs out today because our weather is really kind of dreary and cold. And we put her in a yard so she could do her business while we were cleaning her kennel so that we could put her back in. I went outside to go talk to one of the staff members and she came running right up to me. So that's just an illustration, right? Like even here, sometimes that happens. And so you want to make sure that it's not just an issue of reproduction.
Right.
It's a health issue. It's a safety issue. It's a responsibility of a pet owner to do that for their animal.
Right.
Because I'll be honest, there's so many times where we see dogs that come in from the public or into the shelter and we'll go, oh, that's the finest of Bakersfield breeding, right?
Yeah.
They have health issues. And again, I'm not saying that it's intentional or that it's always intentional because I don't believe that it is. I think a lot of times folks just are not educated about those things and don't recognize.
They think it's just a matter of, oh, I don't want her to get pregnant or.
Right.
And a lot of times people with male dogs think, oh, well, they're never around other dogs.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, no, I have gotten into arguments with people about it, but you're so true. I think there's a limited understanding of why we should do it. And it's not about that. Like I've said to people, even on social media, I'll reach out and say, just so you know, your animal, your pet, your cat or dog will live longer. They'll have a healthier life, reduces a lot of cancers, as well as they just live longer and are healthier and have less things. And the younger you get them spayed and neutered, the easier it is. So I think people just, there is definitely a huge component of education. And also I would see this, it's well, you can't tell me what to do with my pet. Like, well, we're not trying to. We're trying to let you know what's best for them.
Right. And culturally, I think, too, there are some roadblocks there, right? Yep. We hear quite often when we do vaccine clinics and we ask folks, do you want to spay or neuter your pet? And they're very often I don't want to, I don't want to alter my male dog for whatever reason. They think that it's going to disfigure them and they don't want to alter them. And I'm like, it's healthier for them. And then we, really spend the time educating as much as possible. And most of the time they do it because they really do value their animal, but they didn't know or they didn't understand how important it is. And it's not just that it's an only dog household and it's you're not going to have an oopsie litter. It is that your dog, if it gets out, could reproduce and that's not something that we want for them. And you're right, healthier, longer lives and all of those things as well, but also safety. Like,
Yeah, and I would say one of the things I think people don't understand about, like, when animals are in heat and they're mating, it's not pleasant for them, especially
No.
the female animal.
No. Yeah.
It's actually quite traumatic and scary, and, you know, I don't want my female cats to go through that. We have ferals in our neighborhood, we never know. I am not
Right.
taking any chances, not just about
Right.
kittens, but I know they could get hurt, you know?
Yeah.
And so I get what you're saying, and that's, I think, a lot of the education piece of it. And yeah, there's people just don't want to be told what to do, but
Ultimately, but they need to understand. I don't
Right.
believe that people are just like, oh, hey, I'm going to be a crappy pet person.
Right.
I think the vast majority of people are they just don't know.
Yeah.
We're not talking about backyard breeders. We're talking about people just not understanding how important it is.
And I think that comes into play not only with spay and neuter, but also with, you know, no kill versus kill shelters. It's funny, a couple weeks ago, I went to get blood taken, and I had my shirt on that has the name of my podcast on it that says adopt. And so the lady goes, "Oh, what's that?" And we started talking. And she had a pity she loved for years and years, and I've thought about getting another animal, but I wanna go to make sure I don't wanna go to one of those kill shelters, I wanna go to one that's not. I go, "No, you wanna do the opposite. The kill shelters are the one that need you to adopt the pet to save a life." So can you talk a little bit about where that falls into kind of the issues you run into in terms of people stereotyping rescue or shelters and that sort of thing?
So October is Pitbull Awareness Month, so that's good timing, right? I think people need to understand no kill shelters essentially mean that the animal is at the shelter until it gets adopted, or, you know, something happens and it gets sick and it needs to be humanely euthanized. In our shelter system, in our kill shelters, and I hate using that word because it gives a connotation to the people that work there that this is something that they want to do and they don't.
Right.
So there's, you know, a few different reasons as to why kill shelters euthanize dogs. Number one, they come in and they're severely injured or sick, and they have to because the animal is suffering. Behavior issues, which is obvious. We don't have to go into that. And then for space. The sad part is in our county, animals are being euthanized for space.
Right.
So in some instances, in some shelters and other areas of the country, animals come in and they're euthanized solely because of health and behavioral issues. But our populations are so high in our shelters that we're euthanizing happy, healthy, social dogs for space. That is not something that anybody that works in a shelter ever wants to tackle.
No.
And I think people need to know that, yeah, you can adopt from a no-kill shelter. If you adopt from a kill shelter, you're saving a life. But on the flip side of that, I think part of the issue is that people have misinformation about dogs that come from shelters.
Right.
Or from rescues. And they think that they're all going to have behavior issues. They're all going to be difficult to work with. They're all going to come with baggage. Right now, because of the state of affairs in our county, there are more happy, healthy, social dogs than there are anything else.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with a dog from a shelter versus some other place because that's just where they're waiting for a home. It's not nothing bad is happening to the animals in the shelters. There's just only a finite amount of space. And it, you know, I saw days where 60 dogs would come in. You're like, if 60 dogs come in and there's no empty cages, where are those dogs going to go? And people just don't realize that they're mandated by rules and regulations and they can't do anything. And, you know, I've had experience with no-kill shelters and organizations where I've brought stray animals I found and they turned me away telling me, "Oh, it's too old. You can take them here or there." And I'm like, that's the thing. They have the ability to say no to whoever they want to, unlike other shelters. So I think there's also that miscommunication issue that I find with people because it's just that stereotype of what a shelter is and what does no kill mean and all of that. But
and I think people really do have some misinformation about that.
Right.
all the way around. About a month ago, Kern County Animal Services put out a plea. They had 70 dogs on their euthanasia list. So we went down, we pulled 24 dogs that week, which is huge, massive. I think the stars aligned with the universe, right? Because we had 15 or 20 adoptions and we were going to have to pull animals for a positive change program. And it just so happened that it happened right before they put that euthanasia list out. Every single dog we pulled, good with other dogs, good with humans, no behavior issues, happy, healthy, social, right?
Yep.
And they've all been great. They all have different personalities. Some of them are more timid than others. I mean, there's all of those types of things, but
Right.
24 happy, healthy, social, dog-friendly, people-friendly dogs.
Yeah. It's just, and it's also that reaction you get when you tell people, yeah, puppies are euthanized, kittens are euthanized. They can't take care of themselves. What do you want us to do? We can't, our staff is not here 24/7. There's so many things like that people don't understand.
Well, and they're cohabitating 2, 3, 4, and 5 animals.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think people realize this. They're not supposed to be doing that.
Right. There's supposed to be one dog in a full run, not 6.5 run.
They're doing it out of necessity because they don't want to euthanize happy, healthy, social dogs.
Right.
And cats. It's heartbreaking.
It's like a mountain. You start to climb up and you realize, oh, wait, this is a lot higher than I thought it was.
Right. And it's hard because there's a lot more at play than just the shelter itself and the people that work there, right? There's politics involved. There's public funding involved. There's pressure from outside sources. It's really not an easy spot to be in. And I feel for the people that work in our shelters. I really do.
They're amazing. And, I got a small taste of it. I'm like, I don't know how they do it, 24/7, week after week, month after month. And I think sometimes when there is a really bad shelter and really bad stuff happening in one place, it gets labeled on all shelters, and that's not true. Everyone I've ever met in a shelter loves animals and will do anything they can to save them and help them and get them into their own home. Sometimes shelter issues are political, and it's all about, who's running what and who's in charge of what and stuff like that. But a lot of that is beyond our control. But the things that are in our control are volunteering, fostering, adopting, educating people we know about it. What if someone listening right now is like, they're on fire, they're ready to go? What are the top 3 things you would tell someone to do that they can do without it costing a lot or having to spend a lot of time to support a rescue or shelter like Marley's?
Donate. Volunteer. Volunteering doesn't have to take a lot of time. With Kern Safe, we try to do vaccine clinics. We can't run them in the summer because we all know how hot it is in Bakersfield in the summer. And it's not good for the dogs or the humans to be out in that heat.
No.
Volunteer. We do those once every other month. You can spend 4 to 6 hours once every other month if you plan it to help with those types of things. Spread education and awareness is another one. Really help people to understand because there's no way we can get to everybody that we need to get to. But each organization in and of themselves are doing what they can to educate and share the dog stories, share that information so people see it.
Yeah, so everybody can find their place in their own world to help spread awareness.
Well, and there's just so many ways to help. And one of the easiest is just hit the share button. So that people see it. You never know who's going to see something you share or who's going to share it and someone else is going to see it, right?
Right.
It's so important to do that. And it's not that hard. It takes 2 seconds.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're almost up with their time and you're a very busy person. So I want to thank you again for coming back to the podcast
Of course.
and sharing more and just being here to, kind of give everybody the update, but also what we need and what we need to do as a community to help. And I'm sure that I will have all the links in the show notes for Marley's and Melissa and all of their amazing programs. And I just want to thank you for being here and giving me this time.
Thanks for having me. It's always great to chat with you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I am so happy to have you here listening, learning, and sharing these amazing pet stories alongside me. I would love to hear your thoughts on the newest episode. You can email me, DM me on social media. I want to hear from you. Did you enjoy it? What was your one big takeaway from my conversation with Melissa? And I'd love for you to tell me what you would like to see me talk about on this podcast. My focus is education and advocacy around all the different areas of animal welfare and rescue, but I'd love to hear from you. Is there a topic you'd love to see me discuss? Do you know someone working, volunteering in animal rescue, nonprofits, shelters that you think would be a great guest? Let me know. So you can go into the show notes and send me a message. You can DM me. You can email me. Wherever your preferred platform is, reach out. I'd love to hear what you thought of this episode and get some feedback about what you would love to see in future episodes. Thank you so much for being here. Much love to you and your pets.